If you're new to the channel, I'd like to thank you for stopping by to check out this video. Those of you who've subscribed already, thank you to you as well. Now there's a few things that we're going to have to cover in today's topic because I've noticed that there's a lot of people today who are afraid of. I've experienced some fear myself quite recently, but usually these are things that are irrational. For example, you might have seen the mask that I'm wearing today, and it might be a little bit scary to you or a little bit creepy, but we don't know each other on any basis, really. Hopefully you will get to know me more as I release more content. But also, you have no idea what's under the mask, and there's no reason to be afraid of someone just based on how they look. So don't take that as a sign that you should be scared of me. I got a lot of backlash from my most recent video, and I don't really understand why this is such a polarizing thing for me to wear a mask in the first place. It shouldn't be that big of a deal, but apparently there's some people who weren't too fond of that. So the very first thing that we have today is understand where the source of your fear is coming from, because a lot of times the reason why we feel afraid is not very rational. For example, if there's something that you're worried about that might happen, it's very easy to contemplate worst case scenarios rather than to analyze the ways that things could actually go in a better direction. And you might think back to a time in your life where you were afraid of something that might happen, and indeed that thing that you were afraid of never happened at all. Instead, something else happened and you ended up in a better position later on. So you really need to understand emotion versus logic. Are you responding to something in a way that's emotional rather than something that's logical? Because the fear very well may be based on false emotion or things that are conjured up in your mind that aren't even a part of reality. So really dive deep, and there are some of you out there who may have a source of fear that is hard to determine, and I have experienced this myself. And one way to counteract that fear is to journal and write down everything that you feel like you might be concerned about, and then write down a potential solution for that specific worry. So just as a small example, if you're afraid of getting fired from your job, write down what that might look like if you do get fired. And perhaps if that was the situation, there's other opportunities on the horizon. So if you can write down 3 positive alternatives to the worry that you're feeling, you can kind of reframe your mindset to start analyzing the better possibilities that are certainly there for you, that are meant to guide you in a better direction. The second thing that we're going to cover is that acceptance of circumstances can lead to the release of fear, because you may find yourself in a position where you feel extremely uncomfortable based on the circumstances that you're in. But the one thing that you have to understand about that is that everything is temporary in this life. All good things and all bad things will eventually come to an end, at least in this life that we're living now. So even if you're going through something that is unavoidable, if there's circumstances that you feel like are outside of your control and those are causing you fear, then you need to understand, like I said, that those things will eventually change or come to an end. And if it's something that isn't changeable, the only thing you can do then is to shift your perspective. So you have to change the way that you view certain events that happen to you. And you can use the example, there's a lot of different athletes and people of that nature who undergo life-changing injuries, but they find ways to adapt and to live with these permanently life-changing circumstances that they find themselves in. And the truth is that we're all going to face inevitable events in our life that are going to make us feel uncomfortable. They're going to make us feel like we're walking into something that we weren't so prepared for. And part of the mechanism behind this, which is going to lead into the third point, is that the mind is very fond of familiarity. The mind loves predictability. So when you have circumstances that are predictable, for example, you have a certain routine every single week. You wake up at a certain time. When you get home from work or wherever you're going, you usually have certain things that you do. And you have certain people that are in your life, perhaps. And if for some reason this routine becomes disrupted by something out of the ordinary, and suddenly you're faced with a new set of tasks that you have to orient yourself to or adapt to, this can be a bit of a struggle with the mind, as far as the pattern that you were following previously has now been broken, and you have to formulate a new style of living. So this is the process of detachment and releasing yourself from things that are unnecessary. The third topic is that the mind's response to perceived dangers is usually something that is not based in reality. So, what that means, we kind of have to go back a little bit here and talk about the way that the human mind has developed. Because when we were part of hunting and gathering societies, and we were living in the wild, we had to develop parts of our brain that could respond to immediate danger. And this is why we have the amygdala, which is the part of our brain which is very ancient and almost fundamental to survival. But we find ourselves responding to stress, responding to things that have no correlation with our own survival. But the thing about the brain and the mind is that it doesn't understand perceived threats from actual threat. So if there's something that you're imagining that isn't real, or there's something you're afraid of that doesn't have anything to do with being alive, then you're creating a source of fear in your brain that's going to respond to that fear in a way where it's almost like you're in fight or flight mode. And this is when a lot of the negative chemicals, such as cortisol, can rise inside of you. And having a lot of cortisol on a day-to-day basis can be a very tantalizing, stressful situation, because it's almost like sometimes you become trapped inside of the anxiety or the pain or the fear of what you're facing. And the way that you can change that immediately is by going in deeper into your thought process, going in deeper into meditation, and really reflecting on the different core areas that are causing you to feel this stress, and by rearranging the way that you respond. So you literally have to change your perception. This isn't something that happens overnight. And I like to believe that maybe this is one of the reasons why you're watching this video, because you do believe that you can change your perspective, that you can change the way that you look at life, and you can adapt to the situation that you're in. Number 5 today on the board is going to be gratitude and confidence. Now, for me personally, I've had a few experiences in my life, particularly. They were near-death experiences, and after going through that, it gave me a chance to reflect on what's most significant and what is most important in life. And cultivating gratitude no matter what situation that you find yourself in. Find things that you can be grateful for and contemplate those. Contemplate them with more frequency than you do over the things that you're still worried about, or that you have fear over, or that you desire. And try to focus on a long-term vision and a long-term perspective. Don't measure your current results as the properties of your life, because the current situation is not an accurate indication of future event. So if we judge everything based on what's happening right now, we're going to find ourselves sadly mistaken when something great happens, or something changes, or we slowly dig ourselves out of whatever situation that is causing the fear. And as we do this, eventually, it's almost like going on a very long hike, and you're walking for miles and miles, and eventually you turn around and you see how far you've come on that journey. And it's only from that moment in time when you're really able to put things into perspective and see how far you've actually come. The same is true for overcoming your fears, which you have to face and you have to acknowledge and you have to go into. And this is a very long and complex subject that we could go much deeper into. But let's just go back to the very last thing here, which is confidence. And you have to be confident. You have to face every challenge that's coming your way. And you have to build up the belief inside that you will be able to overcome, that you will be able to face these circumstances, and really start to ingrain that into your mindset. That's all I have for you today. I would really appreciate if you could like this video, and please subscribe if you want more information in the future. Thanks again, and have a great night or day.